Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Digital Transformation Bytes, which is actually our 10th episode. So we're excited to have made 10 episodes. And to honor the 10th episode, we are taking a trip across the Atlantic today to meet a friend of mine who's Mark. Say hello, Mark.
Hey, good morning. Good morning, good
Yeah,
afternoon. Yeah.
yeah. Mark Allen he's CCO of COO, should I say, of A5 Rail. And A5 Rail specialists in the rail industry. So I'm very excited about that today. So, Mark, give us a quick introduction to yourself. Give us a quick introduction to A5 Rail as well, please.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So appreciate you having me on here, Brad. This is an exciting topic. And so the short intro to Mark Allen is spent 13 years with Union Pacific Railroad, Class One railroad in the United States. Fantastic operation. And then about 2023 there, we formed our own A5 Rail. The A and the five are after our family, three kiddos. So we wanted to put some family back into the railroad industry. And we feel like we're doing that. But yeah, to what we do, Brad, A5, we focus on a little bit of construction management. That's what we knew very well at the UP side, a little bit of flagging. But the most important and the funnest part of what we're doing, we have an immersive learning platform that of course has tied us together. And so that kind of pulls us into the digital transformation world, Brad. We're excited about that, a little bit of AR, a little bit of VR, and blend that into some of the really cool railroad knowledge that goes on. And I think we can do a lot of cool things, and it's neat what the industry has to offer. So that's us, man. That's Mark, and that's A5.
That's cool, and I do like the name. I think you told me that a while ago, which was a surprise, and I think that was cool, and I do like the generational thing as well. So that's wicked. Yeah, like I think the rail's interesting. I think the rail industry is an interesting topic today, and you're not just coming at it from a digital transformation point of view. You've actually got experience. You've lived and breathed it for a long time, and I know some of the colleagues in the team have as well, which is pretty cool because I think that's a great element of digital transformation. Is A lot of digital transformation is about solving problems. And it isn't always the exact problem you're trying to solve. If you're fixing something, changing something, it's not that I suppose it's everything that goes around it, the automation, the information, the data, the health and safety, the risk. So it's a really cool business model, and that's why I was excited to have you on today. But one question I ask everyone, what does digital transformation mean to you, Mark? What does it mean to the company? Because digital transformation is such a big subject, and I've gone off with other guests, and it's like you can just stop taking cash as a business and just take credit card payments. Digital transformation. So when you look at your target industry and the people you're going after, what does digital transformation mean?
Yeah. So the simple is that digital transformation is ROI. What it means to
Yeah.
us is it means a return on investment for the client. That does mean that there's a cost, right? There is a cost associated with digital transformation, but if you look at some of the numbers, it the numbers in operations that have truly digitally transformed, and to your point, right? It's what is digital transformation? Is it a credit card instead of cash? Yes, but there's also it's such a big and cool topic. So we look at it as ROI. We know that when a client makes that leap or puts that cost up, that they are going to get a return. And the numbers that come in. So I like to use. There was an article there, Brad, on the AI. The AI revolution will be virtualized. And so there was you're going to have to correct me on this because I think it's more so over the pond type thing. But the boats that go around, they're not sailboats, but they're catamarans, and the guys are going around. The guys and gals are just super swooping through and all that kind of thing. I don't know the specific name of it, but it's the kind of the windsurfing type boats. So there was a team that had adopted digital transformation fully, right? They made digital twins of the boat, of their processes, and so they were able to simulate and iterate and tweak everything they were doing millions of times. Don't quote me, right? Don't quote me, but the just way more times than a design change now. You change something on the sail on that boat, and then we do it for a year or 2 years, and we figure out, okay, that made sense based on how we did a good scientific method. Whereas now with digital transformation, they fully adopted it. They were able to simulate so many different years and different tweaks that team, and I wish I knew the name of them there, Brad, off the top of my head, but they were able to proceed and go faster and move better. The Somebody had posted one day and it kind of clicked. So when you think of optimization, which is a cool word to use, right? We want to optimize. We want to optimize. When you think of optimization, you look at a caterpillar, and then the caterpillar is now on a skateboard, I think was what the gentleman used. And credit to him for a great post. So a caterpillar on a skateboard is optimized, but a caterpillar into a butterfly is transformed. Right. So when we're talking
Yeah.
about digital transformation, it's truly that, and it's difficult, as you and I both experience, right? And trying to get that. How do you verbalize that and get that to to the client to understand that this isn't just doing what you're doing a little bit better. It's completely flipping what you're doing and thinking of it in a different line. Like, do you have to do this? And the ones that do, man, it pays off, and it takes time, and you have to implement, and you get some of that. Well, we've always done it that way, which ironically, the folks saying that we've always done it that way are some of the best ones to learn from as we transform, right? And so when you can break through and you can get through, on this side of the pond, we call them old heads, right? The folks that have been railroading for years. They're crusty. They seem mean, but they love their job. They love what they've done. They may be a little bit more of a pushback to start, but they are the ones that truly help to blend what's inside their head with a new perspective and really making this thing great. So it's a long-winded explanation, but that is digital transformation is such a cool topic, and that's how we view it, Brad.
And it's good. There's a few points there. ROI, I think, is a good point to cover, because I think for a lot of people, return on investment is probably time and money, but I think there's a lot more in the way digital transformation works. And yeah, I think it is amazing. Sports teams optimization. I'm a big football fan, well, soccer fan, and a rugby fan, and that. I always remember watching that documentary about the All Blacks and the digital transformation and the way they coached the team, because they just went through scenario after scenario after scenario on a digital basis, and then worked out with the team, and they just become better, more efficient. And it's exactly the same. In the working world, you take your yachting, or maybe they're catamarans or that sort of thing. Example, is it's a Formula One's teams do with that. It's almost that STEM approach, isn't it? Which is, we haven't found one solution and go on to the next solution. It's about constant improvement. And that constant improvement happens on a minute by minute, hour by hour, day by day basis. And I think that is very, very interesting. But I suppose with a red industry in that, time and money are a given. Transformation and efficiency will create that. You'll save money on administration, reporting will be done, real-time data, viewing all those sorts of elements. But just from a risk point of view in that industry, risk must be a massive return on investment for businesses. Do you see that at the moment on the ROI? Because in my opinion, people generally buy for three things. Like you said, you increase the top line, so you're getting more productivity. You become more efficient, so you increase the bottom line. The other one is you reduce risk and you mitigate risk for both individuals and businesses. That must be massive, and that must be a great opportunity for digital transformation in the rail
You nailed
industry.
it. You're absolutely right. I had a superintendent, so he was the head of a service unit of probably 3,000 miles of track, maybe, man, at the time probably 1,000 employees type thing. Very, very wise individual, and he said, we are not in an unsafe industry, but we're in a very unforgiving industry. And
Yeah.
that has stuck with me for probably 10 years since that was said there, Brad, because to your point. So to use an example, let's take arbitrarily a $750,000 piece of equipment. Okay.
Yeah.
We want to, the standard or the way it's done nowadays is we don't potentially have somebody that knows that equipment very well. He or she will sit with that employee for some time, and we train them over a period of time. And we think at some point they're ready to go. Which to be frank, there are some labor agreements over here for the union teams that it's like a 30-day process. And so to
Yeah.
ask somebody to learn a $750,000 piece of equipment in 30 days, I mean, that's tough. And so to pile onto that, Brad, on the risk that, the risk mitigation that you mentioned. Okay, so we digitally transform. We're now doing a blend of an AR or a VR, a little bit of a workflow that's built into that entire process at the end. So now, not only have we shortened that person's time to competency, we've improved it and reduced the risk because that person has failed in
Yeah.
in a different environment, right? And so that's you nailed it. The risk mitigation in our industry, it's unforgiving. It's not unsafe, but it is unforgiving. And so we argue that when you adopt digital transformation, you adopt these tools that allow people to fail. I like to say that fail because that's how we learn. Then we really shorten that learning curve and allow somebody to really grasp it. And the technology had to advance, as you know, right? I mean, if the VR space or the AR space does not look like what we see in the field or very close to it, there's no point because the carryover, the science says that it doesn't carry over to the real world. But as that's come along and you look at some of these gaming as close to real life as it gets, it's it's neat how much risk we are going to reduce as an industry over the next decade by allowing people to train in a different space. It's incredible.
There's also the learning, isn't there? When you digital transformation, you complete processes. I complete the processes, AR, tablets, and you go through inspections, SOPs, any sort of O&M work, and any sort of inspections, I'd imagine, on the units themselves and the track and that sort of thing. The knowledge share must increase dramatically because one point I did pick up, and before we went on to ROI and risk, was, and I hear it quite a lot in a lot of industries, is what's in here, what's in the mind and that sort of thing. And I think it's, I do work in America quite a lot, not as much as you, but I understand you guys have got a skills gap in a lot of industries. We've definitely got a skills gap in the UK, and it seems to be a common theme in the world that one of the biggest drivers for companies who are adopting digital transformation a lot quicker, which is how do I take all this information in senior teams' heads and then translate it into a way that not just the people coming through the door now, but the graduates next year, the graduates 2 years, 3 years, 4 years from now. That must be a massive part of it, not just a learning curve for assets, but you and I know that you meet an experienced person, and the guy you were just talking about with a very good way of explaining it. It may not be the most dangerous, but it's definitely not a forgiving industry. And that comes from experience of what he's seen, what he's felt, what he knows. How do you translate? Do you see that going into the rail industry? Do you see that as a big challenge for them? And is that another, not just mitigating risk, but right, how do we keep this efficient going for the future? Do you see that as another big opportunity?
I see it as a big opportunity, and you had one of your earlier questions in there, Brad, is part of what tied us together because I think we had a missing link. I wouldn't say missing link, but we train a person, great, they're good, but we all our ability to remember stuff, right? I mean, we're all we dad brain, mom brain, whatever it may be. Now with what y'all do on the inspection side and the procedural side, tying that into what we've just trained an employee on, so that they've got an increased muscle memory from the way we've trained in AR or VR, whatever. But now we send them out to the wild, so to speak, and let's hope it's the wild west. How do you do it? So when you fully digitally transform and you have a workflow that's tailored off of what they've trained on, and they get that muscle memory in the field, at some point it's almost second nature and it's intuitive. And that's now there's the flip side of that is when we get too intuitive, right? We have to watch the complacency, right? We get going through the same motions and things like that. But I think that's where when you digitally transform, you capture that with those processes, right? With what you all do, you're able to see, is there complacency here? Is this somebody that just boom, 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 I'm done? Or is this somebody that truly took a picture? Oh crap, I found something today. We can now use that data to teach somebody else. I mean, I know I'm getting excited, Brad, but just what you can tie together and how you can make this. So in my mind, I think about, we've demoed some of our stuff, and just to your point, the next generation, there's a lot of people that I think would be really, really good railroaders, but it's somewhat of an intimidating industry. You got a big
Yeah.
locomotive, you do something wrong, that thing may or may not go on the ground, and that's scary. But when you get the next generation who's built, maybe there's the guy or the gal who really loves it and they want to do it, but they're scared of it. Well, now we kind of we break that fear is because we don't know, right? We break that fear down without having the high risk of being on a locomotive that's literally 3 miles long. I don't know what that translates to kilometers. I should be able to do that in my head, but a 3 mile long train, that's a lot of responsibility, right? And so we're excited about the ability to take that next generation that sees the railroad, that maybe their parents have done it, they've grown up around it, but it's scary, it's intimidating. And let's do it. Let's figure it out together. Let's gamify it, if you will. That sounds a little silly to say about, fixing 32,000 miles of railroad track, but it's gamifying training so that it's enjoyable and it's engaging and it's faster and it's better for the people.
That's what that generation expects, I'd imagine. That's what you want. And again, that is the thing, is a lot of fear is non-understanding. I think that's in any job. Even if you work in sales or you're working anything like that, if you understand exactly what you're going to talk about, the fear goes because you believe in what you're saying, you believe in the product. And I think that is a big thing. If I look for something that, I've never, worked in the same sort of industry as you have, it must be daunting. It must be a daunting task. So if you can break it up into that. And again, it's not like you said, it's not being like educated in the past where you get your notepad out and you get your pen out and then you make sure you take every single note, every single thing, and you go back and revise it. And again, the amount of scenarios that must not come up consistently. There's always the tasks that happen every day. Then there's the tasks that happen every week. And there must be tasks that come up once every 6 months. But how you don't get muscle memory from that, it's impossible. So then that digital transformation, having information with you, having photographs, having videos, having augmented reality, which I know an area you guys are looking at the moment, having that to help you, that kicks the brain straight into gear. And again, any problems or anything missed is picked up instantly. And again, that's why I don't get digital transformation. A lot of companies who resist it, it's the complacency thing as well, because everything's timed, everything's geo-tracked. Was it done in the correct order? I've told you a story in the past that someone told me about just point of work risk assessments being done always after the process as almost an afterthought. Now, that ain't good for the business. It definitely ain't good for the individual. The worst thing that could happen is maybe they get a slap on the wrist and lose their job. But the worst that could happen in an industry like yours, and this was from a rail element as well, is it only takes that once and then you get a serious accident. So it's interesting. So we're talking about a few areas now where we're looking at. In what ways do you feel the rail industry has moved forward with digital transformation?
Yeah.
Are you seeing progress? And there is lots of different areas of progression. We're focused here more probably on the operational, but are you seeing the rail industry moving forward with digital transformation?
Yeah, absolutely. If you think about if you boil it down to what does a railroad do, it's the goal. The goal is to move a car from A to B, right? To move it from. So the growth and the change that I've seen is in that realm, right? That's which makes sense, right? If I'm a railroad and I'm a leader at a railroad, I'm going to look for that digital transformation ROI on revenue and service, getting a car from A to B faster with the modeling uh, of what happens if there's a washout or a derailment or a disaster, or even you just look at all the variability that can happen across the railroad tracks. So that's where we see it, Brad. I think it's neat how far it's coming, and in that realm, there's a lot with so when I kid you not, there used to be a process. I don't know if this is necessarily on the railroad that I came from, but where a gentleman or a gal would be underneath the railroad tracks, and there's a gap in the ties or whatever, and a train is rolling over the top, and they're inspecting that track, or they're inspecting that train as it goes by. Not a job that I would sign up for, right?
Not me
That's
either.
yeah.
Amazing.
But you look at that, and that was the bar at one time, and now there are wayside detectors, which we call them, right, or wild wheel impact load detectors, with where machine vision is coming or it has come from. I mean, the amount of things that those are catching is awesome. So the rail industry absolutely is moving forward. I see it. What we see is in that revenue side, which makes complete sense, right? How do we get a car
Yeah.
from A to B better, faster, safer for the customer? And I think, to me, the next phase, and what we hope to be a part of course, is that, okay, now we're using similar processes to develop the people that are doing it, and then away we go. It's a even better industry than it already is.
So coming away from just the fact of, you know, the automation and that sort of thing, um, real-time data would make a big difference in the industry. And I'm not just looking at the big companies here. You and I were involved in a conversation recently, and it's conversations I've had a lot with any company that services and supports infrastructure. So, you know, rail, road is the one I see. A lot of it is time as well, as in done the process goes back to admin eventually create an invoice eventually gets to whoever they were servicing the rail for. So we'll say Union Pacific in this case. Again, it's a very slow process. And again, in the UK, there's always been this thing about smaller companies. Smaller companies are crippled by payment times. You know, it takes 30, 60, 90, 120 days. So not only can you generate the automation, not only can you generate the data, but one of the other areas, you start to connect all the dots of real-time data. So real-time information not going from the field straight into admin, straight into invoice, straight out. Real-time errors, quickly spotted, cause and effect, maintenance. Efficiency, money, and then obviously the support of smaller companies and the reduce of risk. How do you see real-time data really changing the business from an operational point of view?
If you can think of a worst case scenario where we've derailed, right? We've stacked them up on the main line, and the process has improved greatly over the years, right? On the important part, right, is of course prevention for it to never happen. But if something does occur, then let's find the root cause. So to your point, the real-time tracking of what truly caused this, so that if it's a material defect, to give you an example, we had a switch point from where a car or a train goes from one side of the track to the other. Was just it just had a machining issue that was just a little bit too thick, and so it had caused a derailment. And so, of course, there was a full court press. Were they, with that manufacturer, able to backtrack exactly what happened and find those? But to your point, I mean, the real time data and the ability to just adjust on the spot, and not only that, is to be able to get that information out to the folks, right? So if they're UP's 32,000 miles of track ish, probably 20,000 employees, if not more. So, okay, derailment happened last week. Takes a lot to put it together, but to grab that data quickly and to have that dispersed quickly is huge. And I think UP, and I'm sure all railroads had always did a really good job of getting that information out to the team. It takes a little bit of time because it's an investigation. You're trying to figure out what happened. There's this and that, but I mean, it's paramount to have that data ready to go, able to act on it, have it in front of the person that knows, right? Because that's at each railroad over here, there is that expert. That person exists inside of that organization. And so it's just a matter of getting the right information in front of them the fastest. And so the data speed and having it real, I mean, it's beautiful what the future looks like as we learn on the fly and keep trains moving.
Yeah, it is, and it does affect. Like I said, there's lots of good use cases about data, and it's not only just the collecting the data, but it's what the data represents. Because if there are common themes, which I guess there's common themes you look after. Like you said, the poor person is led under the trains, effectively looking for something. Again, definitely not a job I would put my hand up for. But again, does that help avoid these problems? The learning curve, I think, is dramatic because yes, the experts should be able to put their finger on it straight away if there's data available. That data then is distributed to anyone else who works on the same style of work or the same style of assets, or got the same train on the same sort of track. Is that the big thing? Is as much as and one of the things everyone talks about is like the old days of preventative, isn't it? Preventative maintenance, but and then everyone's moved on predictive. Is that the future? And then again, if you've got that data, you've got those data sets, you build that data set over time. AI engines if tuned and trained, even though you need human loop, should be able to spot them out even prior to the expert spotting the data. Is that the way you can see it going? Will that eliminate? It'll never eliminate 100% because everything's going to happen at some point. I get, but is that the big step for the rail industry once they start creating operational data?
It is, and I would be the personal opinion that I have, Brad, is that if you look at things from a shareholder's perspective, and rightfully so, there is that future someday where it's a lot of robotics, right? And it's a lot of, but I think we miss a key gap to really empower our folks and our people and arm them with the best ability that they have, right? And blend that together. So I think to your point, I mean, we all know what ChatGPT can do now, different AI agents. It's amazing. But I still think, there's Peter Thiel has a book, 0 to 1. And then he talks about, what AI does versus what we do is completely different. Maybe there's a future out there somewhere where it all goes together and it's wild, right? But in the meantime, in the next however many years that is, I think we really we focus on taking those people that have that, we call them the crusty railroaders or the old heads that really know what to do and why we don't do it, so that AI, when it runs for 24 hours a day doing something, it's running correctly. Because to your point about data quality and integrity, AI can continue to run and run and run, but if it's not running on the right things, then we're doing the wrong stuff. So there's been a lot of companies that have tried to tackle that predictiveness to the rail industry. I think every day they get closer and closer, but I still think it's a matter of, you've got to still have that person, that guy or that gal that understands it and has a blend of that old school knowledge that has kind of been there and picked them up off the ground, but also embraces technology and understands that this is how we keep communities safer. This is how we make sure we're more predictive. We're better customer service for our client, for the various rail shippers. So definitely where it's headed. I just think I really my caution or my hope is that we make sure we value those folks that are doing it now, because they are the way forward, right? And they're the way that we have good data integrity. Because if we don't have those folks, we can no bueno. So
Yeah, no bueno. No, you're 100% right, and I think you're right in what we're both saying. I think that is the future. I think the future is a long way. I'm a massive believer of human in the loop. Anyway, I think human in the loop will be around long time probably. And they will be the experts. It's how you educate the experts of the future. The rail industry better than me. One thing I do see in the manufacturing industry, I see it a little bit in energy and those sorts of things. There are some companies that are leaps and bounds, and some companies are still on the starter blocks. Now, I agree 100% with you. I think, taking away companies like Tesla, who are far more advanced, but have gone through exactly the same as what we're talking about. They're just more advanced on the path, which is, it is the data we collect today. It is the people out there now using digital transformation tools to pinpoint problems. One of the good things about digital transformation, I think, as well, especially when you look at like operational flows or operational digital processes, is you talked about data integrity and data consistency. And one of the most common things I talk about when I speak to clients is, in the UK, it's a bread roll. If you go in the south of the UK and then to the north of the UK, how people describe or tell you what a bread roll is changes dramatically. Now, if you and I got onto the rail track and you said, Brad, there's a problem. Now you write down what you think the problem is, and I'll write down what the problem. If it's a huge crack, we're both going to do it, and it probably will be similar. If it's something a bit more technical, you're far more experienced than I am. I'm far more junior. Data integrity and consistency goes out the window. So it's going to cost businesses a huge amount of money to go back. We get that. You can't change what's happened in the past, and they are going to have to find consistency and tidy it up. One of the big things we've talked about that future, and you start to build years and years of experience and information and data, is digital allows you to lock information down, allows you to lock answers. So when you are doing a process, you can go old school, you can go multiple choice. It's either A, B, C, D, E. Now it could be A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, because there may be lots of different scenarios. I think that's the driver. It's how quick these businesses are going to take these steps now for the future. And again, I think there's multiple layers to go, from where we are to AI dominating any sort of operational workforce. Do you see businesses getting left behind in the rail industry, like I see in other industries, where some industries, some companies are just staunch and no, we're still there. Yeah, we've just bought a CRM and an ERP. We're excited, and it's like, well, it's fine. Businesses have been doing that for a long time. And then it's all paper, it's all pen. We like to upload it, we like to scan it, we like to fill it in, and the guys and girls like to fit it on a Friday because that's their admin day, and they don't have to wander around anymore. They can sit in the office. And then you get these other companies that are like, yeah, we've progressed, we made spreadsheets, then we went to maybe static PDFs, and now we want to benefit from the data. Do you see that kind of differentiations between the companies you talk to and the companies you deal with?
Yeah, the easy analogy, Brad, of course, is the wave, right? The wave is coming, right? And it's here. And we'd much rather see companies and that are surfing the wave and don't get taken over by it. We don't tend to see folks in the industry that, while it may seem kind of old school and that are just completely against transforming. It's just a matter of, how do I do it while still keeping things flowing? But to your point, I mean, those that aren't, that they may survive and kind of hobble along, but there's just so many neat things you can do, and so much, not even free time, but so much consistency that you can free up for those employees and those individuals, so that they can do the things. And with what you all do, the ability, I think sometimes digital transformation can look into, it's scary because it sounds like, okay, do I have to relearn how to use my phone?
Yeah.
No, absolutely not. The good digital transformation is as easy for the person that maybe struggles with an iPad or a spreadsheet as well as you or me, right? The intelligence and the design is what makes it go. But I don't see too many people that have just completely bucked it. But I do. There is definitely a difference between the ones that, we've talked to different companies, Brad. It's been awesome. There's directors of digital transformation. Like they're, it's the person whose sole focus is to take the big picture of whatever company he or she's at and to help implement it. And I mean, and you get fantastic questions from those people. You get a way to see how it looks. So I get it. The operation is operation. That's how a company makes money. But those ones that, man, it's going to be so neat to see how far ahead they are because they're embracing a new way to do things, and it's neat. So yeah, we don't. Not seeing a lot of the complete naysayers, but it does. It's something that, like I said, it's ROI. It takes money. It takes time. So you have to find a way to fit that in on top of what you're already doing, which can be a struggle.
Yeah, no, that's true. It is true. You're probably right, and I think it is funny, and I do like when you do go and talk to these companies who maybe employ someone who heads up digital transformation. That there are so many cool systems out there. That's the thing. You do get, I don't know, you get caught in your own little area. Maybe
Yeah.
we both have different platforms, and our platforms join up, and we offer a combined service, and that's great. And then obviously you go off and do your thing, and I go off my thing, and you do get that kind of, not tunnel vision, but you're stuck in your area. But when you do speak to them, you speak to some of these systems that are out, and there's some great platforms that their companies are using. But that's what I generally see. I see some companies that are so willing to run proof of concept. And again, and I think that's an important bit, and it kind of leads on to my next question. I think one of the biggest challenges I've had with businesses, and it's kind of creating a step mode, of how you kick the tires. How can I have a little look at this? So you're effectively your test drive, but you're going to do a little bit more. You're going to give them, you're going to let them have the car almost for 3 months or 6 months. Create multiple processes, create use case, formulate some managers and measures. And I don't think that's too expensive. And the reason I don't think it's too expensive, I don't know if you come across this before I lead on to my question, because I've gone off on a sidetrack now,
Fair
is
enough.
when you think about the average wage in the rail industry, and I imagine the engineers paid a good money. They should be paid a good money because they do a very, very important job, what we've discussed before. The element of their time saved to then allow them to focus on using their intellectual property or their skill set in an area that's better, it's peanuts in comparison, especially when you just talk about a small proof of concept. So is that an important part for the rail? I think it's very important for a lot of industries. It's creating a scaled approach. It's not just from zero to, it's big money time. My zeros are keep going. It's that scaled approach, and does that allow them? And I think I've found, and I'm interested to see what you find. I've almost found it's that land and expand. If you land with one thing, you kind of come out, and it might be 10 users, then it goes on to 20 users. It might be one team. Is that what you're finding as well?
100%, and it caught me off guard because when you look back at our journey, probably November 2023 was when we kind of were awakened per se with, holy crap, there's this world of what Brad does and what various people are doing to truly, have different bits and pieces of the giant digital transformation pie. But in my mind, the light bulb went off and was like, this is it. But then as I get excited about it and I jump around and that type of thing, I've had to your point, we've really had to take that step approach. Let's start with a task that is, to your point earlier, not done as frequently, but it has some severe consequences. And let us just show you a proof of concept on this is how this is better. And then that typically helps, to your point, you land and expand. That typically helps us to just start there, because it's a lot. Well, we have really tried to take a big picture approach to this whole thing, meaning we don't get locked into a certain hardware, things like that, and benefit of the client, right? In case that the client see the different way, or there's so many different processes and things like that. But that being said, it's really is a matter of land and expand. Let's focus up. It's super cool what the F1 racers they've digitally transformed and they've really iterated. That's awesome, and they're there. But what was their step one, right? What was their step one? I think in that same article they talked about a digital lightning bolt, right? You have to have that one digital lightning bolt, that step, and that's when we've backed off of let's fully go all in and test the depth of the river with both feet type thing, and focus on a step. It's really helped us get into the door and focus on something that provides real value right away, not just a hope and a dream. Okay, this is real. Now let's take the next step. So
Yeah, and I think from a financial point of view, it helps companies as well. I think for a business, when like you said, there is an element of I don't know. There's an element of it's uneasy, and then like you said, the actual process may be very small, or it might be this is very small, but cause and effect is, could be devastating in some areas. So I think that's what helps businesses as well. And I think that's good advice to anyone that does watch this and listens to us, and reach out to Mark and that as well. Is it doesn't have to be that expensive. You can do a nice stepping stone where you can prove the concept, you can track the ROI, you can see what time saved, you can look at the data, and there's so many cool ways as well. Because one of the things I was going to ask you earlier was about like legacy systems and that, and there are always legacy systems, there are always architecture. There's so many ways that you can flow the data, new data created into old systems as well. It's very easy to demonstrate that without even touching your IT architecture. So yeah, there's some really cool ways, and I think the stepping stone is a good thing. So one of my last questions, Bart, what would your advice be to anyone out there now? Maybe someone who works for a team in Union Pacific, or a smaller rail system, an internal city-based rail system, and they are thinking about this journey. How would you go about maybe giving them advice how to start, and what sort of first steps to take?
it'd be silly not to recommend going to the old chat GPT and asking the simple question, Brad, what is digital transformation? And then from there, what I like about chat GPT or whatever anybody uses, Gemini or that type of thing, is it's kind of like starting from the root of a tree and then expanding outward, right? That first question kind of gets you to the root or the seed, and then it really gets your brain turning. It's just a real. So I mean, as trivial as that may sound, what is digital transformation? Because what it is to you and what it is to me is totally different things. Um, what are some of the successes that companies have had, right? We talked about the catamarans, the F1s, what we're starting to see in the railroad industry. I mean, look at the success stories. So that because the point you made in this, that it was probably one of the best of the call, Brad, is that digital transformation is just solving problems, right? And so each problem is just a little bit different. There's such an array. There's different people involved with it. And so that's where I would start is what is it? How have companies succeeded with it? Obviously, we would love for you to call Brad or Mark at some point, right? Because we feel like we've been into this for some time and we beat our heads against the wall on learning things the hard way. and hopefully can prevent some of that, kind of failing or falling forward type processes. But it just ask a simple question, get into it. It's neat where we're headed with the different large language models, because it gets a person into asking those questions, right? Well, we're 3, 4, 5 years old. What do? We ask questions, right? And then we kind of get into the stage of life. I'm gonna not to go off onto a complete tangent, right, Brad? But it seems like we lose a little bit of that. And what's so beautiful about where we're headed and with AI and things, it now gets people asking those questions, right? No question is off limits to how does this work? I want to learn about this. Oh, it ties together. It's just amazing. So go to a large language model and ask the questions, right? What is it and how has it been successful? And from there, I think the story will tell itself.
That's what makes your kids smarter than you these days, man. I was lucky to have a calculator at school. Kids have gone through the Google stage, now they're going through the AI stage. It seems to be that, but it's right. I think there's a good couple of points there. If you don't understand digital transformation, great ways to find out. And I think it's looking at your organization. I think I've got a presentation to do to our partners soon and that sort of thing. And the first slide of mine is always about what are the common problems and what is the common solution that my platform Workflow Plus offers. And that's as simple as that, because that effectively it's no different. It's no different to anything else you do in business. Why do you buy a new machine? Because it's more efficient than the old machine. That same principles. And I would, if you're in the rail industry, I know Mark and Paul very, very well, very switched on. They know the industry really well, and they've got some cool things that really align with problems the industry has, but the challenges and how those challenges can become more efficient. So I definitely reach out. Before we close off, Mark, is how can people get hold of you? How can people get hold of you? They want to have a chat with you. How can they get hold of you?
Yeah, very simple. It's Mark Allen at A5 Rail there on LinkedIn, and first name mark.allen at a5rail.com. And I would say I can get you a cell phone from there, but the railroad is 24/7, 365. So I like to keep that same mantra now, right? So if you're 6 hours ahead, I believe, right now, and we are, right? Work late, work early, whatever it takes to get it done. So reach out and to your point, Brad. I mean, as you can tell by we love these type of discussions. So it's not always not always a sales demo, right? If you just have questions and how have I stumbled and fallen down, and how have we fallen down on the way, so that you don't, please reach out. We'd love to talk more. And it's neat. It's a beautiful future ahead, my friend.
Yes, I think it'd be good, and I think I'm really excited to see A5 go forward, and especially with Interware in the future as well. And I could back him up on that. Him and I are always chatting at odd times about the various different things. Him telling me to call football soccer, I don't know about that, but lots of things like that. But our time zone differences mean one of us is always up later, or one of us is up early. So now that's cool, Mark. Thank you today, mate. I really appreciate it. I've learned a few things as well, which is always cool. Again, thank you for everyone who tunes in and listens to it. Digital Transformation Bytes will be back soon. Again, Mark, thank you very much, and thank you.
Thank you, Brad. Appreciate it.
That's